One of the desires of every drug lord is to have easy access to different borders, locations, and ports, which will enable a vastly more efficient distribution of their infamous goods both in and out of his city. And in Mexico, one of the few drug cartels that enjoys these rights is the Gulf Cartel, with its official base in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, a county that shares direct ties with Brownsville, Texas, USA. These ties gave them links to various armed groups, which came to them for different reasons, with most of them being to guide them through illegal passages to the US. Due to their advantage, they were involved in many other illegal activities, which included kidnapping, buying stolen goods on the cheap, and selling them at high prices to desperate immigrants who came to the borders. Through these channels of illegality, Jorge Eduardo Costilla Sanchez, or better known as El Coss, began his stint of illegality even while serving in the Mexican police force. Costilla Sanchez has several aliases, including Coss, El Coss, Costi, El Judas, George the 20th, and Sombra. Yes, you heard it right, Mexican police force. You might be wondering, how can a cop join a cartel? This is total nonsense. Well, this might be nonsense in the first world countries, but definitely not in Mexico. You would be jaw-dropped if you'd know how many former cops have become cartel members or even made their own cartels. The thing is, if you earn $500 per month as a policeman in Mexico, and you see every day how well the cartel guys live, the guys drive around in flashy cars and own private villas, then probably you would at least consider changing the sides. And of course, as a cop, you will be on the radar of local cartels. Eventually, they will offer you some money for your services. It's like the take a blue pill, take a red pill thing. If you take the blue pill, you will continue your job for $500 per month. If you take the red pill, you will get 10 times more from the cartel and enter to the dark side of the life. Everything has a price in Mexico. Absolutely everything. But the El Coss story gets more interesting. Born on August 1st, 1974, Jorge, even though he was a child to a former female principal in Matamoros, never did grow up to be the good, innocent child his mother wanted of him. He served in the Mexican police for some years and was soon thrown out of the force due to his greed and connections with different armed gangs. Filled with anger, he decided to start his own gang of kidnappers and birthed the Los Sierras, a group of disengaged officers who were removed for the same reason as him. With his former life in the force, he was able to know notable men in society and was able to kidnap them for ransom. When the hands of the force were getting close to him, he knew it was time he made a change. He slowly worked himself into the attention of then Gulf Cartel leader Ociel Cardenas Guillen. With his small unit of kidnappers, he was able to move in and join the much bigger fish in the game. And there he worked his way up to become the lieutenant after just a brief stint. With his ruthlessness, he was able to advise the leader to push towards other sides of their business. And then, the Gulf Cartel began to taste the cocaine waters. With easy access to America, the cartel group was able to move swiftly, sending out hundreds and thousands of pounds of cocaine and heroin through the American border. A push which generated billions of dollars for them. And once you've made billions of dollars in cash so fast, you're basically unable to stop yourself, and most probably it's the hardest thing in the world to jump out of this game. Their movement and efficiency in the distribution worried the American government so much that their leaders began to seek a much better way to stop the movement of drugs into their country. There was only one problem. Which cartel group was responsible for the large movement of drugs? It felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. They decided to send out 2 undercover agents to find out who was responsible for these mass drug movements. With his network of friends, El Coss was able to get these secrets and immediately leaked them to his boss. Enraged, Ociel set out with 8 Cadillacs and went in search of the 2 agents. The 2 federal agents were caught as they were cruising through the Gulf Cartel's estates while rounding up their surveys. This famous incident is known as the 1999 Matamoros standoff. As the 2 agents stepped down, they were immediately surrounded by 15 machine gun-wielding members of the Gulf gang, and among them was the leader, Ociel and Jorge Costilla, wearing his police uniform, along with others. Filled with fear that their lives were in danger, the 2 federal agents tried to talk their way out of their situation by claiming there would be a massive US military clampdown on drug cartels in Mexico if anything happened to them. The heat was getting on, and Jorge was already bloodthirsty and willing to damn the consequences and shoot the 2 federal agents. But Ociel, his leader, thought otherwise. He ordered the 2 federal agents to leave and never set foot in Mexico if they planned to stay alive. The federal agents thanked their lucky stars and left, but the incident was enough for Jorge to use and sow discord in the minds of the Gulf Cartel members. Slowly, he began to eat deep into the minds of the gang members of the Gulf Cartel. With their operations going on in different territories like San Luis Potosi, Cancun, Acapulco, Nuevo Leon and Guerrero, it was hard for the leader to take control of everything going on around him. It gave Coss the chance to instill doubt in Guillen's leadership. Slowly, infighting began to grow in the group, and by 2003, the Naval Army of Mexico went into battle with the leader of the Gulf Cartel. A move that many believed was most likely arranged by an insider who rattled out the position of his leader, who was known for his quick movements away from trouble. When the battle ended, the Naval Army had Guillen in their custody and a lot of other close associates of the Gulf Cartel leader, except his brother Antonio and Jorge Castilla. The two subsequently became the new leaders of the Gulf Cartel, but another group, which believed Jorge was the one who rattled out their leader to the naval officers, refused to have anything to do with them. While Coss served as the leader of the Gulf Cartel, the naval officers were picking up his rivals while leaving him unharmed, a move that infuriated the remaining gang members and solidified their claim that Jorge was the snitch. The Los Zetas, which were the heavily armed group of the Gulf Cartel, left the group to start their own operation and become a private mercenary group for hire, a move that not only infuriated Jorge, but also opened them up to attacks. And obviously, Los Zetas started to move cocaine into the US as well. Soon, the people began to ask questions about why the naval officers had left Coss untouched, and were only going after his rivals. In a supposed bid to clear their names, they started their manhunt against Jorge and his companion, Antonio Cardenas Guillen. In 2010, an intense gun battle ensued between the Gulf Cartel and the Naval Army, a shootout which is still regarded as the most devastating day in the history of Matamoros. For 8 long hours, the fight raged on, and when it was finally over, bodies littered the streets. According to the government, only 10 people from the Gulf Cartel were killed. The local media reported about 40 deaths, but witnesses and live reports claim that over 100 people were killed. Actually, the fighting went so crazy in the town that public transport and school classes were canceled, and it provoked the temporary closure of 3 international bridges in Matamoros, along with the suspension of activities throughout the municipality, since the cartel members hijacked the units of public transport and made dozens of roadblocks to prevent the mobilization of soldiers, Marines, and federal police forces. It's estimated that 80 SUVs, filled with gunmen from the Gulf Cartel's Los Escorpiones group, came to protect Antonio Cardenas Guillen because he was their boss, and 300 grenades were used in the fight. So just imagine yourself as a tourist in the city of Matamoros that day. Antonio died in this battle, but Coss was still at large. 2 years later, Jorge Castilla was apprehended by the naval forces while having a routine run to his base in Tampico, Tamaulipas, without a single shot being fired. In 2015, he was extradited to the US, and after a rigorous court case, he finally pleaded guilty on September 26, 2017, where the court immediately sentenced him to spend the rest of his life in federal prison, in the most feared place on earth for the cartel guys, United States of America.